Hey y'all, welcome back to my channel. If you are new, thank you so much for joining me. My name is Courtney and I do a lot of food related content, grocery hauls, what's for dinners, and today we are doing a meal prep video. I actually meal prep pretty often, but I haven't filmed it in probably about a year, so I thought I'd put out another one of these videos. This is a Friday for me and I am meal prepping for mostly over the weekend and lunches for the following week. So let's just kind of dive right in. First off, I'm going to make some sausage balls, but I'm making two different kinds. If you don't know, sausage balls are great to grab on the go and they freeze beautifully. So you could just like make them and pop them in your freezer and then just grab out a handful and pop them in the microwave, and they make a great breakfast on the go and they're so easy to make. So I just put a pound of sausage in each one of those bowls, and then I mixed in about a cup and a half of bisquik, and I'm going to put in about a cup and a half or so of shredded cheese. You can do more or less depending on your preference. I used to do a full 2 cups of shredded cheese in mine, but I have kind of dropped that down to about a cup and a half here recently. I like the store-bought shredded cheese just because for these it doesn't need to be like creamy and melty. It's just there because cheese is delicious. And then in one of them, I'm going to kind of like fancy it up with some roasted hatch green chilies that I have sliced up and diced up. So it is hatch chili season where I live. I'm taking advantage of that. I'm buying them, I'm using them, I'm freezing them. They are amazing when they are roasted. But if you don't have those or it's not hatch chili season, just a can of diced green chilies is wonderful as well. And then this is how I mix my sausage balls. It's a lot like kneading a loaf of bread. I like to use like a squish and mash technique is what I'm going to call it. But I squish everything together and then I mash it just so that the sausage will kind of take in all of the bisquick and all of the cheese, and it all gets mixed in together. I don't want to leave like bits behind, and sometimes the sausage doesn't want to incorporate really well with the bisquick. So I really do feel like mashing it and kneading it is the best technique to make that happen. And these never come out tough. I know people say if you mess with your ground meat too much, it gets tough, but mine are always fine. Then I use a cookie scoop just so they're roughly the same size, and then put them on some parchment lined paper. No, sorry, on a parchment lined cookie sheet. And then I just use my hands to roll them into nice, neat little balls so that they cook really, really beautifully. And these kind of varied in time for me. So the green chili ones took much longer to cook than the regular ones, I think because there was more moisture in them from the green chilies. Regular sausage balls I can cook in about 20 to 30 minutes, depending on how big I make them. I just kind of keep an eye on them. But these did take a little bit longer. And then what I ended up doing was I cooked them with the other sausage balls and I pulled them out and I realized they were not quite done. So I just popped them in the air fryer and it gave them a beautiful texture on the outside. I think I may try that with the whole batch of sausage balls next time. So now that those sausage balls are done, I'm going to move on to some egg cups. There's a lot of breakfast prep this week, but all of this is freezable, so don't worry. It's a lot of breakfast food for a couple of weeks. So I started off with, I think it was like a dozen eggs, and then I put in about 3/4 of a cup of cottage cheese in there, and I seasoned it with some pepper. I didn't use any salt just because I'm putting a lot of bacon and stuff in there, but if you're not, you want to put some salt in there. And then I use my little immersion blender just to really like smooth this out and get the eggs really, really well mixed. You can also use like a regular blender or a food processor, but I really do recommend using something just to break down that cottage cheese. And then I lined my muffin tin and sprayed my little liners with nonstick spray. And then you can put whatever filling you want in there. But again, it's hatch chili season, and I said I'm taking advantage of it, and I am. There is really few things better in the world than the combination of roasted hatch chilies and bacon. So I am just going to put some of these chilies in the bottom and then some crumbled bacon in the bottom. I did not put any additional cheese in here just because my oldest son loves egg bites and he does not love cheese. But if you're cooking for people that like cheese, I know that the Starbucks brand of these egg bites is like, I think it's Gruyere, which is like a Swiss, or maybe it's Gruyere, I don't know how to say it. I think it's like a Swiss cheese and bacon, and it's fabulous. It's my favorite. Or just regular old cheddar cheese is great in here as well. And then I just use a ladle and just try to evenly add on my egg mixture. And it does kind of settle in around the bacon and the green chilies, so you may need to go back and kind of top these off. I don't do them to the very tippy top, but I do it close. And what happens is when they bake, they kind of like puff over the top and it looks beautiful. But then when you bring them out, they're eggs, so they sink down. So then you have a nice full cup of egg white. And the cooking time will vary on these, one, depending on how big you make them, and two, depending on what you put in them. For mine, I put them in the oven at 350 for 30 minutes and they were done. But if you're putting like more meat or something in there, it may take a little bit longer. All right, so while those are baking, or the first batch is baking, I'm going to make my pancakes. So I made this a couple of weeks ago on my channel on a what's for dinner video, but I will go ahead and list the recipe down below. I always put butter extract and vanilla extract in my pancakes, but I got this from Walmart and it's a butter vanilla emulsion flavoring. It's from the baking aisle, and this was fabulous. It tasted amazing. I love it. Butter extract in your pancake or waffle mix is a game changer. It just really elevates the flavor. So this mix, or this little emulsion that I got, was just awesome. I can't recommend it enough, but if you don't have it or you can't find it, like I said, I always just use regular butter extract and vanilla extract. You can really put whatever flavorings you wanted in there. I mean, if you wanted coconut pancakes, you could put in coconut extract. It really just kind of depends on your taste, but just for regular traditional pancakes, that butter extract just kicks them up to a whole different level. And then I kind of like to whisk as I add in all my ingredients, and that way when I put the flour in, everything is really well mixed and I don't have to mix it a whole lot. So once you add the flour, as you mix it, you're developing gluten, and you want pancakes to be really light and fluffy, so you really don't want to develop gluten. So my goal is to have everything really well mixed so I can mix them as little as possible once the flour mixture goes in there. I learned this from Alton Brown a long, long time ago, and this technique has always worked out well for me, and I really think he knows what he's doing in the kitchen. So I know it looks lumpy and clumpy, but just set it off to the side and forget about it for about 10 or 15 minutes. I promise you will thank me for it later. So while my pancake mix is chilling, I'm going to make this dip, which I did not realize my camera angle was off like this, but I didn't want to leave this out because this was fabulous. So I will link the original recipe down below, but I did alter it a little bit. I softened a block of cream cheese and I added in some mayonnaise to that, and then I added in like a packet's worth of ranch dressing seasoning, and then I added in some sliced green onions, some diced bacon, some sliced black olives, some diced up sweet mini peppers, some diced up roasted green chilies, some dill, and some bacon pieces that I chopped up myself. And I mixed this all together. This was so good. Oh my gosh, like if you like ranch dip, this is like ranch but better. The original recipe I think had a few less ingredients than what I put in, but it also included corn, and I think it would be great too. I just kind of took the idea and ran with it. This was amazing. Don't skip out on this dip. I will link the original recipe down below. So now that the dip is done, it's time to make these pancakes, and I just like to spray my griddle with the nonstick cooking spray, and then I just plop down my pancakes on there. These don't spread as much as other pancakes do because the batter's super thick, but they do rise quite a bit. They're very thick and fluffy. I love this recipe. This is by far the best pancake recipe I think I've found so far. So I'm just going to stick with this one, but I made a whole huge batch of those. And then the last thing I'm making is I'm prepping lunches. This was actually on Monday. This is what we are having for lunch all week this week, our grinder sandwiches. I shred up my lettuce, and each day I just come in here and I use a little bit of this dressing that I'm making and prep the lettuce so it doesn't get wilty. So I mixed up about a cup of mayonnaise and half of that Italian dressing packet mix, and I stirred it together really well. And then every day I come in here and I grab enough lettuce for 3 of these sandwiches, and then I mix in a little bit of that mayonnaise dressing, and then I put the sandwiches together. So that's how I store my lettuce too, just in case you don't know that trick. If you put a paper towel on top and flip it upside down, it'll collect all the moisture and your lettuce will last a lot longer in your fridge. But I'm just going to mix this all together now, and this is kind of what gives it this amazing flavor. You can add in like banana peppers or pickled jalapeno peppers or whatever you have. I did not happen to have any on hand on this particular day, and my husband really wouldn't like peppers in his anyway, so I didn't do that, but I think my son and I would have absolutely just devoured it. It would have been fabulous. But that's okay. So I got that all mixed up, and I'm saving the rest of the dressing and the rest of the lettuce. We'll use it throughout the week. And then I just got a big loaf of French bread from Market Street, but I mean, you can use hoagie rolls or whatever you have. Even just regular sandwich bread is fine too. And I just divided mine up into these portions. It looks bigger than it is, so these loaves of French bread are not that long. They're just like really chunky. And then I just sliced them in half like this as well, but I didn't go all the way through just because it kind of helps hold the sandwich together. And I'm just going to kind of pop these in a zip top bag, the ones that I don't use or as I'm using them, so that they stay fresh. I actually went through 2 loaves of this bread for the week. This is not going to last us all week long, and the bread won't. And that's fine. Regular sandwich bread, like I said, is fantastic. Then I just store them in the zip top bag. Sometimes I do keep this bread in the fridge if it's going to be quite a few days, just because when it's the bakery fresh bread, it does have a tendency to go bad really, really quickly. But we were going through this so fast, I didn't feel the need to do that this week. And then once I have my bread all sliced in half and ready to go, I do like to pull out a little bit of the middle. Like I said, this bread is really chunky. So I pull out a little bit of the bread, kind of hollow out a little boat in the middle for my filling to go. And I don't think I caught that on film. And then you can have whatever toppings. If you want like onions or cheese or whatever. I just did the lettuce with the dressing and tomatoes and the meat. But you can put whatever you want on these sandwiches. I think like olives would be fantastic, or bell peppers. I mean, pretend like Subway's in your kitchen and just add whatever it is that you want to add to your sandwiches. And that's what works for me, just because I think everybody likes a lot of different toppings on their sandwiches. But I piled in that lettuce mixture pretty well because it's got a ton of flavor and it's got a nice crispness to it because I made this fresh for lunch every day. The lettuce was not soggy or wilty. And then put on your pickles or onions or tomatoes or whatever. And then my choice for meats were, that's a Black Forest ham, salami, and pepperoni. Just to really kind of mimic that Italian grinder type sandwich. But I mean, again, you can make this your own and put on whatever meats and cheese you want on there. Just really do it up the way you like it. Sandwiches are one of my favorite things, and I like to kind of go crazy with the toppings. So, you know, I try a lot of different things, but today I was keeping it more on the traditional side. And this is a lot of bread, so I am going to put a little bit of mayonnaise on that other side of the bread just so it's not dry, because nobody likes a dry sandwich. You can dress this up with like salt and pepper or whatever if you want to, but I found that that dressing was really flavorful, and that was all it needed. So there is my meal prep for the week. This is what my family enjoyed for breakfast and lunch and snacks. It was fantastic. I hope you guys will try these recipes at home. Let me know what you think of them. Thank you again for joining me this week. I hope y'all are having a wonderful week and have a great weekend too. I'll see you Saturday with my What's for Dinner video. Bye.